Salama Alahayakun, Khadusa, and Namaste. Well, I'm here today to do another sharing on a verse that I was looking at. I had actually contemplated going on a live stream with it, and it's one of those things that I find verses every single morning, and I get so excited, and I go, oh, this one's got to be shared. Oh, this one's got to be shared. And then I copy and paste it and put it in a Word document, and I never get to record it in my day, and it just gets shuffled in my file of verses that I want to record. And I think to date right now, I probably have 200 of those. So I need to do something a little different, because as these things are coming out, for me, they're fresh manna. And because they are surfacing at this point in time, then for me, in my heart, I know that it's time to reveal them. There's a reason why these verses are coming up. There's a reason why Spirit Rucha is bringing them to me, so I can have my aha moments and then be able to record them and share them with you. So that's exactly what we are going to do today. The verse that we are going to actually be looking at today is in the book of Revelation. And I know that when I first initially started on the Patreon channel, it was about going through the book of Revelation. I probably will pick that up at some point. What I need to do is be able to be freed up from my day jobs first. And as soon as I'm freed up with that, that gives me more time, probably about an additional 20 hours a week, in which I can A, take some time off for myself for self-care, and B, have essentially a whole nother day to be able to do the things that I want to and bring these messages to you. So I'm sure those things are changing. I'm just going to do what I can when I can and be able to share from my heart as these things rise up and I can bring them forward to you. So having said that, let's take a look at the verse that I would like to share with you all today. As of recording this, this is Tuesday. Tomorrow I will be starting with the Aleph. By the time you hear this, I will have already released that first teaching on Patreon, but it is never too late to join. And I'm only, the gate to enter in the language teachings is only $5 a month. I chose to gate it because I feel these languages are priceless, but I feel that everyone that is joining needs to have some sort of an investment in themselves. And, $5 is actually pretty low in cost, and so people might handle it casually, but I still felt that I needed to gate it, because if you're not investing in yourself, then it makes it difficult for me to invest in you. It's just the way of reciprocity works and how I see it. Anyway, let's get into this verse, because I'm excited to share it with you. As you can see, I use the Dukrana. I'm going to highlight it up here so you guys can see it. Dukrana.com with the Peshitta, the plain text of the Aramaic writings. And those of you who are not familiar with it, this is how the Aramaic looks. I don't usually go and teach just from the Aramaic because I'm still bumbling around with the letters. I'm getting better at recognizing their shapes, but for ease, because I've spent many more years in the Hebrew, this is the transliteration of the Hebrew. And what I mean by that is this is the beautiful essence of Hebrew and Aramaic. A vav, I'm going to highlight this here, a vav in Aramaic is a vav in Hebrew. An aleph in Aramaic is an aleph in Hebrew. One is masculine, which is the Hebrew, and one is very feminine with the Aramaic. And you can actually see by their writing styles how the Aramaic is more curvy, connected to the feminine, and how the Hebrew is very block style, connected to the masculine. I will show you, we probably won't go into it, but down here on the bottom, this is another Hebrew verse. This is the back translation into Hebrew from Aramaic. So this is the transliteration letter for letter, and this is what we would look at to correspond with the actual Hebrew language if we wanted to check in to see what is corresponding, because there's some different laws that work within the languages of Hebrew and Aramaic, and it's beautiful to be able to see the connections, because it is a wider view of taking a look at the masculine and the feminine and what it is doing, because the masculine builds the form, the feminine fills the form. But we're not going to be focusing on that so much. We're going to actually take a look at this verse, and I'm going to try to go through it without taking too long, but there are some key elements that I want to share with you. And the first thing that I want to point out has to do with the very first word, which I think is hilarious. They translate at as if any man. Okay, well, the very first word here actually has to do with an inquiry, which is kind of funny. If any man make to cease from the words. Okay, well, that's interesting. It means basically if anyone is ceasing from inquiring, or if an inquiry is stopped, meaning with the book of Revelation, it's actually the revealing. You would know this as the Apocalypse in Greek, which those who are separate from the unified whole have chosen to make as a very scary thing, instead of it being something that is revealing who we are in the anointing that is being given to us through the masculine and feminine energies. I could see then why they would translate it, they, as those who choose to separate, would translate this as if any man, because it actually brings more fear into this verse when it's really about an inquiry. It's about an inquiry. And it's an inquiry as to how to become unified, how to enter into oneness unity. If Yeshua has said, I and my Father are one, and paraphrasing, I wish that you were one with my Father as I am, and if the Magdalene was taking forth this message in writing this, which there is a very strong support that she's the one that wrote the book of Revelation, that she was the one as the revelator. Yochanan the Revelator is the one of grace, grace that writes the revelation. At any rate, when we're taking a look at this word itself, it's letting us know that there's an inquiry as to how to become one. And the answer is actually kind of proposed right here in the word itself. Ayin means to become nothing, because it's in the process of becoming nothing where everything is at. And when we look at it a little bit closer, we can see a word here that is encapsulating we beseech thee. Like there's a prayer. So there's a prayer that is going forth, that there would be those who would seek to inquire how to become one in the process of becoming nothing where everything is at, in unifying themselves. And in the process of that, right in the middle of it, is letting us know with a little yod that there's work that has to be done on the inside that is going to give us a seed that is going to bring forth new life into union, into sacred union. And that there's a prayer of those who have already gone before, who have entered into oneness, a silent prayer that is continuing to go forth, that is saying, we beseech thee, inquire, search, ask questions, dig in, because you need to connect. You need to connect while you're here. The importance of the ethereal and the material, because that's actually how we go into the process of becoming nothing. Then when we take a look about ceasing, I think that's pretty interesting in taking a look at this word itself, because this word, although it says cease, it means to inferior or less or decrease. So in other words, these writings are letting us know that it should not be diminished in the least book. Like, I don't know how many of us, when we were in the Christian church, did not spend much time studying in this book itself, because either the pulpit didn't teach from it, because there's so much symbolism in here, and some of the things that have been translated in English are frankly a little scary. If you don't you don't know how to read in the text underneath it, it can actually terrify you. Hence why we have the apocalypse being scary instead of it being the greatest revealing ever of who we are from the inside out. So it's saying that they should not be diminished, because it is the door that is going to help you with your chaos. And you'll be able to build it from the inside out, from the twin energies, which is actually a safe place of family, of nurturing, of caring, mother, father, that is building the temple of you that will deliver you, because the dawn is also connected to deliverance, to deliver you from your adversary. Pause on that. So this verse right here is showing us that we should inquire into him, because it helps us be delivered from our adversary. An adversary, really, if you want to connect it to something that you can actually activate in this, it would be the persona. It would be the masks that we wear as we play our parts as the ego. Because what that does, that adversarial component, as being our ego, as a persona, as a mask, as a role we play, actually cramps and confines us, because that's really what the root of Zor is it cramps and finds us. It puts us in a very narrow place. But it's saying that if you find the very narrow path on the journey that actually few find, you will be able to raise yourself up out of your poor and destitute place. But you're going to have to walk through it. And this Dalit is letting you know that this is like an inward portal, a doorway that you must enter into to deal with your own chaos. And really, the ego in separation causes a tremendous amount of chaos. Then we have a word here would be translated from, but this is actually, it means also to be a part of, like a stringed instrument. Think of it of resonance, like when you play a good guitar or you play a chord, where this resonance is incoherence, and it means to be a part of. So what are we talking about? Well, you guys should know too that Memnoon is actually how you spell manna. So for those of you who are seeking their daily manna, to be a part of resonance, a frequency, a chord, a vibration that goes out through and in the word. Here's the words. Here's the word. So trying to explain a word that means word sometimes can get a little confusing. But this is also another a Hebrew side of this, which means to be filled. What is this being filled with? Well, this is actually pretty exciting, because here in the very center of this word that means word, and it means to be filled, the lamed is right smack dab in the middle. This has to do with authority. This is a shepherding staff. So the word is what is actually really shepherding us. Now, until we can get taught and initiated into how to read these languages through the oral tradition of the code and how to break them down, we generally have to seek an outward shepherd to help us. But that's only a temporary status, because a true shepherd should never try to gather sheep. The true shepherd is trying to make the sheep into the shepherd. That's the whole purpose. If one is trying to gather people, then that's more of an ego thing, because really the shepherd should be completely excited when they can turn loose their sheep from having to be under their care because they became their own shepherd. So this is instructions of the heart that then fill you up. But what you don't see through the toroidal quantum realm of this is that the mem and the aleph, I'll highlight it for you here, the mem and the aleph actually form a word that is connected to like 100-fold measure. It's a measurement, it's ma, and it is connected to 100. So for those of you who have been studying and have even read in the English narrative where it says the 30, 60, 100-fold, well, here you go. The writings, the words, and not from their English counterpart, but in the Aramaic and the Hebrew, are meant to fill you with the word through a speech that is going to shepherd your heart so that you can have 100-fold measure. But I'm going to tell you a little secret. That might be 100, but technically, when you take a look at this, the aleph means 1,000. So think of Psalm 91. 1,000 may fall at your right, 10,000 at your left. We're looking at the process of multiplication here. But we have to go through and have the authority of our heart first. Right hand path is where we're building the form through mother's teaching. Think about this as bride training. You can get yourself to the 100-fold measure there. When you get into father's teaching on the left-hand side, which is the inward work, that is when the 10,000-fold measure shall be given to you once you have turned all of your shadows. Right, now we have, and this is interesting that, well, in Hebrew the word is sefer for book. We can show it right here. And in Aramaic they have it as the ketuvah. Now this is incredibly important to make the distinction here of what is being said. I shared something the other day about how the letter kills, which isn't the case. It is the writings that act like a knife that pierces you. Big difference. It takes that stony heart and makes it into flesh because of what it has done and what it does, because it's meant for the inward man. It's meant for you to build your temple from the inside out, and that's what the writings are here to do. They are what shepherds our heart in order to make this happen. Well, Kitava, the reason why this is so important is this is actually what would be known as, and I don't like using the word contract because some people might have a very negative concept of it, but I want to collapse it and refill it. A contract in the case of the Ketubah would be, if you're looking at the inward reality of it, it would be enjoining yourself to yourself. To enjoin, to constitute, like a constitution, where you're coming around and you are constituting yourself. The writings were always meant for the bride's protection, because the groom, if you think about it this way, the higher self is always established. The higher self is more of the spirit essence, and the higher self does not need protection whatsoever because it already is. There is no shadow in turning, it is full light, so there's no protection there. The writings help the lower self, the feminine energy that needs to turn. Think of that as going from Lilith into Lila into the Magdalene spirit. And the writings are meant to build her from the place of just being the bride and bride training into royal reigning as the queen in the day of the wedding when she is crowned with light. This is going to, like I said, the maturation process. 0 to 12 would be bride training. 13 on is the wife training. And the writings help us to do that. Katav would be the root, and the Aleph is added. So what is this saying? Well, if you go through the door and deliver yourself from your own separation by revealing the shadow that needs to be turned through the writings, you will be able to grasp a hold of the covenant of fire, Barashit, where you will complete the journey in building yourself in becoming one. Union. This would be intimacy. This would be Tav Aleph. If you were to not look at this bet here, the Tav and the Aleph that flank that is actually the sacred chamber, the innermost chamber of the temple. It's also the wedding chamber, or you could call it the bridal chamber. And when we put these frequencies together, this actually puts the frequency in of as the ark. I really want you to think about that here. What is the ark having to do with anything? Well, when the floods and the rain starts pouring, the ark is a safe place. And there could be much that could be taught about that. But please understand that the ark is the sacred chamber of your heart, but it must be built from the inside out through the twin energies where they become one. And I hope you can see that through the writings. Man, if I don't hurry up, it's going to be an hour and a half before we get through this verse. Okay, so let's move on into prophecy. Here we have the word for prophecy, and it would be Nabiutha, or Nabi, or Naba would be the root. Very, very interesting to see how that is written here, because the first two letters here are judge. Now, I use that word judge, and I know that some people that probably is potentially a triggering word for you. But let's collapse it and refill it. It is a door to a seed, a new seed that is being brought forth. When we talk about judging, whenever Ken and I talk about judging, we talk about self-adjudication. And self-adjudication is at the point where when we talk about self-adjudication, it's about being able to look at something within you so that you can recalibrate yourself. Because if we didn't do that, we would never be growing and maturing. And I've already shared with you that the whole process is moving past the bride into the intimate teachings of the inward self so that we can become the queen, so that we can become one and we are crowned with authority and crowned in our light. So in that, of course, it's going to follow after the writings, because the writings, which are instructing our heart here, are actually the judge, so that we can compare the mirror that we are seeing by translating ourself. Am I matching the image of that which I am translating? When I look at myself in the mirror, am I vibrating to that frequency? And if I'm not, then I need to recalibrate myself, because it's really prophecy. I'm prophesying over myself every time I excavate the writings to be able to see the reflection in the mirror, have something as a vision that I can aim for and aim towards, which then gives me the ability, if I do the work, because this is, that little yod is connected to work, through the work and the deed of my own hand, power, means, and direction are given to me through the writings, so that I can connect to the hidden aspects of myself, which then tethers the ethereal side of me to the material side of me, where I can enter into the bridal chamber and complete my journey. One thing I wanted to say before we move on with this Tav specifically, especially the Tav. The Tav is a place of completion, and when it is placed, it means it is finished as is. So what I would like to share with you on this is that regardless if somebody has faith enough to believe something that it is or is not, when that Tav is put in place, it is a completed work. It doesn't matter what beliefs are. It doesn't matter if you can see it or not, whether you're trying to convey it. It is in an is state as true being. And so to see, if I could just convey this to you, to see that the writings are the prophecy that is given so that we can connect to it as is completed. When we do the work, we will end up in oneness union. That means the sacred wedding is going to take place. We will be entering into the bridal chamber in the innermost place of our heart, and it will be as finished. Sacred union as one. I don't know about you, but that is a really big deal that I'm seeing right here. Being filled with the wedding agreement, the wedding constitution, where we enjoin ourselves, where we judge ourselves, where we prophesy to ourselves for our own self-adjudication so that we can change what we need to change to match the image of that which is being presented to us. Wow. I don't know about you, but that makes me pretty dang happy. When we move to this word right here, literally means this. Not quite seeing where they've translated on here, but it would be of the book of this. Oh, there we go. Of this prophecy. There we go. Open your eyes, Carrie. The word is interesting because it is normally written as Hana. Some of you who have been hanging around me have probably heard me say things like Hane, or you've heard Ken say Wehine Puach. Well, that's where it's coming from, but the noon has been deleted. Now, not surprising, because we have the noon in the word Nabi, which is already letting you know that a new seed is being presented. But what this is really saying is that this is the door, the portal within, and we must go through that portal within, delivering ourselves from that which is disconnected, that's left dangling, so that it can be brought forward and the covenant can be sealed within us. And what flanks either side, if you can take a look to the right and the left, is the Hay and the Aleph, and this is directly connected to the spirit breath, the inhale and the exhale. If you want to connect this to the tetragrammaton of Yod He Vav He, Yod He is the inspiration, Vav He is the exhalation. It's very much connected to this, except that is the pattern of creation, where we take the power of desire to move that energy forward and create. Well, this one is that process of breathing through the deliverance. So what does that mean? Well, every time we go within and we deliver ourselves from an area of our lower self that is keeping us disconnected, it's reminding us to breathe. Every revelation that comes in that we must deliver ourselves is followed with the Aleph, which is a refreshing, which is bringing forth creation's energy in making it as this. So the writings that fill us up is going to help deliver us, but please remember to breathe through the process. Now we have, again, this takeaway or ceasing. So we had that up here, and now we have here. So this would be take away again in will take away. Let's see. This is where they would have translated that portion right here. Aloha will make to cease. But what I'm seeing right here is now we have that noon. This is so brilliant. So the Dalit was here saying that we needed to deliver ourselves from our own separation within, because a new seed is going to be given. And why is that important? Because this is having to do with our heart. And that's where I was sharing before how that Lamed is instructing us, because we're really trying to till the soil in order for these seeds to be planted, in order for them to mature and bring us to the point where we're building ourselves through those twin energies and dealing with the enemy, the adversary component. But there's something else I want to share right here, which I think is amazing and that you wouldn't see, and you can only see it through the vortex, the toroidal way of seeing the language. On the other side of my highlighted is the Nun Hey. This has to do with light. You would know this if I was saying it completely as Nura or Nahar. That is another word for it. The Hey in the middle, that would be to sparkle, to gleam, to river. The mountain, the river are one. And this is saying that inside there is a journey to be taken, and it's the journey of light. And once that revelation happens, then you've traversed your mountain. But you first got to find it. That's what searching is all about. Building and searching on the inside out. And what are you building and searching for? What are you delivering yourselves that you've been cramped and confined from? Allah. This is different than Abba. This is Allah. We struggle because we get hung up on that word right there. We've been told that God is on the outside of us, but this is very important to connect to what I was sharing before about the shepherd. The singular form of God is Allah. Now, its shortened form is El. But if we were to collapse this so that you can connect to it instead of something outside of you, because all of this is an inside job, need to be looking as it instead of at it, would be the strong leader, teaching shepherd that is bringing forth a revelation that is going to reveal the sacred union of being one. So right in the middle, this is so beautiful, the instructions of her. The instructions of her. Why is that important? Well, because many times in the writings it would say in him or his, when really the translators did not use the correct grammar. When it's feminine, the hey on the end brings it forth as a feminine entity. So the instructions of her, and on the outside we have two flanking on the prefix and the suffix. We have union. We have God. We have the essence of the quantum realm, the etheric realm that is in and through everything. That is the wave. And we're just a particle, but it's the wave that is in through everything that creates animation. So it's the inward instructions of her that we build through. So if you can connect everything that I just said through here, that is pretty amazing to lead us to that point. These instructions are revealing that you and your divinity are going to be revealed as absolute through the writings. Pause on that. Has the English translations done that for us? No. 30 years within the church and the English Bible did not do that for me. Much has transpired since I started with the sacred languages. All right, let's move on. The next word that we are looking at would be portion. Now, again, this is very, 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 very interesting because it just is exactly what I just shared about how translators will not keep the feminine aspect of what is being written here. This right here has the hey on the suffix. This is the Shekinah. This is the feminine. Janet McGarra's work in the mechanical translation says in here, his portion. Stop. Her portion. We have the word for God, and then we have her. This upsets the apple cart, I know. I know it does. But we need to really take a look at this. Well, it comes from a root that means a number, to reckon and to count. So to be counted within the number, to have the allotment, this is coming through that divine feminine energy, which is connected to the shadow. Now I want you to see something here. Oh, this is so brilliant. Right in the middle, we have the noon, okay? So what has been added? What has been added when we take a look at this here is the Tav Aleph. Well, technically it's the Tav that's been added here. And the root of it would have had an Aleph right here. But I know exactly what it's saying and why these letters are here. The reason why these letters are here is it's very much pointing out the feminine principle here. That without the feminine principle, then we cannot move forward in what it's speaking to us, because there's a seed that is planted. I want you to connect the noon to sperma, because it very much is. It's a seed that is meant to produce and germinate new life. But without the seed being dealt with in the feminine, you wouldn't have the masculine and the feminine to create something new. And what is most profound on here, which you don't see, but through the toroidal way of looking at the language, what flanks the right or the right and the left of this seed is the word for death. So there is a new seed that is germinating, that is meant to be revealed. The power of the Shekinah glory is a new seed that is going to raise us up into perpetuity as a perpetual state of being out of death, coming from our heart. That is freaking fantastic. And then we have the word manna again, or men, to be a part of. Coherence, like a stringed chord being played. And when we connect this, now we have the word for tree. Kisa. Kisa Dakaya. Tree of life. Kisa Dakaya. This is an Aramaic word. It is not connected to Hebrew. Here's etz. This would be our Hebrew word here for tree, the etz chaim. But this is the Kisia Dakaya. Why is this so important that there's a difference here between the Hebrew and the Aramaic? Well, it actually has to do... Oh, wow. I gotta pause on that for a second. I just looked at this and I'm sitting here. This is the word for cross. This is the word for cross, the cross of life. Wow. All right. I have shared with you guys before how there's sometimes revelations that, my goodness, where there's revelations that come in when I'm doing on the fly that just blow me away. This is the word for tree, but it's also the word for cross. This is the cross of life. Oh my goodness. I want you to think about that for a moment. I have been kind of challenging the Constantinian gospel in what it's presented, and I have shared with you before that Ishu's message, when in the writings it says, I am the light and life, it's actually I am light and salvation. And this was pre-cross message. This was pre-Constantinian Evangelion gospel. This is now saying to be part of the cross of life. This is a big deal. The reason why it's a big deal is because the ketubah, the writings that prophesy and instruct you as the shepherd that will fill you up, that is delivering you a new seed to deliver you from your adversarial component to become one with God and your own divinity as the divine, raising yourself up out of death, revealed as the Shekinah glory, so that you are now part of the tree, the cross of Chaya, that delivers life to you, salvation. Please connect to that. The tree of death, the cross of death, was the Constantinian message of the Evangelion. This is the tree. This is the cross of life. Oh my gosh, man, I gotta sit here on that for just a moment. Whew. So it's saying that this cross, this is the compressing of light within the circle of time, revealing that which has been hidden, so that the power can be given to you through a small vision, a spark, what you need to do on the inside to become as wed, as propped up, supported, hedged in, the wedding ring, the signet ring, which leads you into union, the sacred union, delivering you from your separation into salvation. Oh, I hope you guys are connecting with that. And this is again to be a part of life and of this is holy and this is city. Again, the way sometimes the languages are written. But here's the part that I think is fascinating as well. So the city is also an active form of the word judge. What do we see here? We see that this letter can mean chaos or it can be mighty. The mighty judges who did the work, who completed their journey, that completed it, finished, it is, as one. And again, they are now having entered into the sacred chamber, into the judge's chamber. I love that. Into the back of the courtroom, into the sacred chamber, where they have consummated themselves through a new seed. That is pretty fantastic. Where you're now the holy city, the city set upon the hill. That's exactly what city is. That's it right here. In that covenanted place of the sacred union, the Holy of Holies, the innermost chamber. Kadisha, this is Kadishta. This means the completed, the foundation, right here. As being of substance from the inside out, that is now completely connected, as finished, as completed, as marked in the sacred union again, the holy sacred union. You guys, because this is the innermost chamber, we are talking about the Holy of Holies. If you want to look at the wilderness tabernacle, that is just a complete image of you as the laid down humanity or laid down mankind that is now entering into the holy place that will stand. And here we go. This is so incredible. This word right here that I've highlighted to you has to do with a strong leader. This has to do with a ram, a post, a pilaster, anything that is strong, a strong tree. So here we have the cross, also as a tree. Now we have a strong tree. You guys, this is actually the root, ayil, strength, which is a pilaster, which is an idiom for a priest, is the root of El. So now there is strength. And why is there strength? Well, because it was the power of the instructions that were of the heart, the shepherding of the heart, that made them as nothing. Why did they be made as nothing? Well, remember, this is also the inquiry, the question of searching diligently for something that is then as the inquiry that is now being revealed as having authority within, the spark within, the authority, because the teachings presented and made this happen. The door happens through the writings. The ketubim, that is the written, the active form of the ketubah that must be built. Now it's kind of funny to see that, because at the end of the writings here where it says it's written is the word for sun, and literally the word sun as a frequency means one who builds. And through the vortex side of it, the toroidal aspect of the word, we have the kativ, the writings of the judge. Dalet Nun. The writings again are meant for us to self-adjudicate from within, because we are building this. We are we are building our temple that has been dagesh, that has been pierced, which means that there is a seed of life that is within our temple, that the sacred union has now been made complete between the masculine and feminine energies through the ketuvah, where we've constituted and enjoined ourselves as one, as being one, hene, behold, the book, the writings, as built, as completed. Man, I don't know about you guys, but this was a fantastic freaking tastic verse. Like this right here, the cross of salvation, the cross of the Chaya. Again, you guys, this doesn't have to do with the cross of death. This is the cross of salvation. And again, if you did not connect, you could say, oh, well, this is the Constantine message, but it's not, because this is what delivers life to you. This is exactly, remember, the beginning of this book says the revelation of Yeshua or Yeshua HaMashiach. And remember, I did point out to you, for those of you who are on Facebook, I'll have to share that with you guys here on YouTube, that the verse that Yeshua said that I am light and salvation was pre-Constantinian message of the death, burial, and resurrection. You've got to connect it to that. The cross of life instead of the cross of death. Amazing. There's more here that I will record later, but I need to take a break. This sharing takes a lot of energy out of me. I need to regroup, and I will record something later. We're going to go back a little bit further. There was actually a verse that I wanted to deliver first, but Spirit said do this one first, and connection to the writings. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you for your time and energy, all of your support, all of your love. May these words bring you into the place of Chaya and Chadutha, joy, and Haliva. Namaste.